Good morning and welcome to the Unity Center of Pittsburgh. I'm Reverend Patti Perhacs and I'm going to lead service today. And boy, are we glad you're here. We have a really great service planned for you and we're excited to create it along with you. Our guest speaker today is Steve Treu, who always has a message that really makes us think and ponder other thoughts and think differently, I should say. And I think that will happen today, at least as he presents a theory on simulation, so a simulated reality. So that should be interesting. And of course, we always have fabulous music. And today we have Lucy Clabby and Mila Shadle. And we're thrilled that you're here because you guys do a great job. So thank you all for being here. Let's raise our thoughts, raise our vibration as we think about Unity and what's our purpose here at Unity. Well, we're going to get into our vision and mission, but for those who might be new to Unity today, I just wanted to mention that Unity is a new thought denomination. It's empowering, it's metaphysical, and it's a different interpretation and application, more so, of Christianity. We recognize here at Unity that God is everywhere and in all things. Unity is has an awareness of Jesus as a great master, one of many great masters, and a way shower. And he realized the divine perfection in man, which we all refer to as the Christ consciousness. And I believe you'll hear about that a little bit more today in our message. We understand that our purpose is to relearn, to be one with that higher consciousness, to bring that forth, that divine creative force of the universe, to be present not only in our lives, but through our lives. So let's talk a little bit about our vision, which is up on our board and on our screen, and hopefully you're seeing that screen at home. And let's together say aloud our vision and our mission. So our vision is that we envision a spiritually awakened world flowing with divine love. And our mission is the continued creation of a loving, growing, inclusive community dedicated to teach, inspire, and to practice positive spiritual living. So together we envision and we activate our visions. So let's have some music.
If you'd like to join us this morning, we're going to start with Use Me. Feel free to stand, move, however you are moved. Use me, oh God, I stand for you, and here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. I used to think God was the sun, God is the sun, but God's so much more than the earth and the stars and all of creation. God is creator, all in all, needing us to shine its light as me, as you. So use me, oh God, I stand for you. that heals all creation. God is creator, makes all things new. And God needs us to shine its light as me, as you. So use me. Oh God, I stand for you, and here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. And God needs us to shine its light, and God needs us to shine its light, and God needs us to shine its light as me, as you. So use me. Oh God, I stand for you, and here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. Show me all that I must do. Show me all that I must do. Thanks, everybody.
And with that awareness and that prayer, we call upon that presence, as we've said, show us. Show us God, show us Spirit, show us divine love. Show us all that we must do as we bring forth that consciousness of love and of light in our life. Assist us to be that higher consciousness. Assist us to set aside that personality, the need to control, the need to hold on, the fear, the doubt. Let us cast that all aside as that light flows through us, as us. And may we bring forth that spirit here at the Unity Center of Pittsburgh, which we are grateful for and we give thanks for, as we realize our divine perfection, as we give thanks for the compassionate heart in which to express wisdom, peace, joy, and everything good. And so it is. Amen. Now let us light our candle, which we refer to as the Christ candle. And this is a ritual. I call it a ritual. It's a ritual that we do here at Unity for a number of reasons. One is to recognize, of course, and be reminded of the light that flows in us and through us. And I also like to remind us all, and myself, that even in the darkest of times, or the appearance of darkness, there is a light that shines brightly, always, in all ways, through us, and if we allow it as us. So turn to that light within, with gratitude, with thanks, and any time you feel a little down, just reconnect and imagine that light, and so it will be. And let us together now recite our 5 unity principles. They're on the screen. Please say them aloud as we give more energy and power to these words and to the actualization of them. God is the source and creator of all. There is no other enduring power. God is good and present everywhere. We are spiritual beings, created in God's image. The Spirit of God lives within each person. Therefore, all people are inherently good. We create our life experience through our way of thinking. Through prayer and meditation, we increase our conscious contact with God, bringing forth love and wisdom, health, prosperity, and everything good. Knowledge of these principles is not enough. We must live them. And now we'll have another song, please.
We sure will. If you want to move with us once again, I invite you to join us. We're going to sing I Choose to See. I choose to see the love in me, I choose to see the love in me, I choose to see the love in me, it's also called divinity, I choose to honor who I am, I choose to honor who I am, I choose to honor who I am, it's part of Spirit's master plan, I choose to let my dreams come true, I choose to let my dreams come true, I choose to let my dreams come true, 'cause God's with me in all I do, I choose to shine the light in me, I choose to shine the light in me, I choose to shine the light in me, it ripples through infinity, Thanks, everybody.
Lucy and Mila, thank you so much. That was stimulating. Feel that light shining through? Do you feel your heart opening? It just feels so good to be alive and to be here at Unity today. And today is Labor Day, or day before Labor Day. It's a whole weekend of rejoicing, as we have, for those who are still working, we have a day off on Monday, most people. And we give thanks for that opportunity to let that light shine through in our work, right? So our daily word today, and appropriate for a long holiday weekend, is titled Refresh. And together let us recite the affirmation. And again, when we give voice to an affirmation aloud, we put more energy forth in the creation of that message. So let us say together aloud 3 times, honoring the divine presence within, I am refreshed. Honoring the divine presence within, I am refreshed. Honoring the divine presence within, I am refreshed. Stretching and yawning after a good sleep, enjoying a brisk walk in the early morning, or sipping your coffee or a replenishing drink after a workout or a walk. I feel refreshed. I move forward into my next activity with a renewed feeling of well-being. Building upon and refreshing my knowledge may relieve me from thinking too much about my obligations, too much about my worries, too much about my cares, and spending time with a good book or revisiting favorite passages from my favorite writing can give me a relaxing mental pause. I find many opportunities to refresh my awareness that God, that divine presence, is within me, wherever I am and whatever I am doing. It takes only a moment to find God's presence reflected in the people, in nature, in the animals that I encounter, in the beauty of the world that surrounds me. And it is written in Romans, so that God, by God's will, I may come to you with joy and be refreshed in your company. And now with that vision of that light everywhere, through all things, in all things, let's think of the children in your lives, children in your schools, children we see in our neighborhoods as school has begun and the buses are filled with kids going on to learn and to grow. And then let's take that thought and expand it to all the children throughout the world. And let us hold them in our mind's eye. And let us surround them in the color of pink. For pink is the color of love. As we hold them in this light of pink, we affirm that they are protected always. We envision their awakening to the awareness of their true nature, their gifts, and the fullness of their own divine love and understanding unfolding. We affirm that all children are healthy, loved and nourished in body, mind, and in spirit. And so it is. Children. So we're going to move into our prayerful intentions. And we have reignited our prayer intention slips that we write on a piece of paper now. And we did this pre-COVID and we brought it back. So there's an opportunity to pass out these slips, the prayer request slips. If you could, please, thank you. And either now or later, if you could write down the name of a person or situation that you want to bring light or wholeness to, feel free to do so. And we will collect those a little later in service. And if we can have a little music while we get these prepared, that would be great. And if you don't have a pen or a pencil, we'll get you one. Or you can just hold that name, that person, that situation in your mind's eye. Because that is where we create. We create through our thoughts and our vision. So bring those situations and those people to your thoughts. And I'd like to dedicate, quite honestly, this service to Anthony DiTommaso, a dear friend of mine's brother, who was the epitome of love and kindness in all that he did and everyone he met. He suddenly made his transition this week. And we know that he is with joy and bliss now, but of course his family is very saddened and shaken. So let's bring light to all of the DiTommaso family and all others who may be grieving at this time. So write those thoughts on a piece of paper. And can we have a little music, song, if we can get that started?
In this moment, in this place, I remember who I am, letting fear and worry fall away from me. I open my eyes to see there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free.
We lift all in need up to the light. And we hold those individuals who maybe recently transitioned or transitioned years ago. We still feel you in our hearts. We feel you in the presence of a memory, a holiday, a photo, or a book, or in nature. And we are reminded of the love that we shared, and we are so grateful. We know that love and light and everything we do is an imprint and lives on with the passage of time and continues to shape the world, that eternal light and love, creating wholeness and peace. And we know for those who are struggling physically, emotionally, financially, for the oppressed or depressed, we surround you in light. We call upon the healing angels and that light of perfection within you to make you whole, to help you find strength or peace or comfort. And we hold the world and surround it in the color of pink. We surround it in love and healing, and believe and trust and affirm the highest good unfolding for all beings and for all our world. And so it is.
When I lose myself, when it seems I've lost my way, when I go inside and quiet my mind, I can hear Spirit gently say, there is only love, there is only love, love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love, love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love.
Continue to play for us, Mila. Our ushers will collect your prayer requests, and we will send them off to Silent Unity, where they will be prayed upon for the next 30 days. So know that your prayer, your intentions continue in strength and power of affirmative prayer and through your thoughts. With gratitude, we give thanks for the healing that has taken place and continues to in each and every moment. And you can ready for yourself for meditation as you deliver your prayer requests to the usher. I encourage you to uncross your arms and legs and be open to that energy, that power of God to flow through you uninhibited, unprotected. Thank you. And take a deep breath within as you go to your altar of peace. For it matters not the denomination or the name of the infinite that you call upon. It is our intention of love, of wholeness and well-being as we merge with that one creative force, that divine light with whom we create in each and every waking moment. As you breathe, you allow yourself to go deeper and feel the blessing of thy presence, and call upon the great master teacher, the Christ, to enter through your head, filling us completely with light and activating all of those power centers within you. And know that in your center, and core to who you are, that light pervades, that light directs, that light shines forth. Invite it to touch each and every atom within your being, to make you whole, to pass through your indiscretions, to allow you to forgive. Forgive yourself or others. I leave you here now in this presence, within your divine self, and know that that light shines all around about you. I leave you here for a moment until you hear once again the sound of my voice. As we give thanks for this moment in the silence, we are reminded that I walk with you. I walk beside you. And the wings of thousands of angels carry your thoughts, lift you when you fall down, pick you up when you stumble. For we are one in consciousness, in pure being, in love. Let that love be your imprint on this world. And so it will be. And now, if you will, bring yourself back to this chapel, to the sanctuary, as you feel the seat underneath you and behind your back. And I give thanks for the music, those fabulous energy that you've all created. And, we create this service together, and I felt your love. We are going to have another song. Would you like to introduce it?
Sure.
Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you. We are going to share a song that I believe I first heard this song as a kid. It was in a movie that I saw just once in theaters when it came out, probably 20 years ago. And yes, I was alive. And I haven't thought about it too much since then, but I was so intrigued by that when I happened upon this song again, because I think what is so interesting about music as a form of prayer is that it can work on you before you even realize it's working on you. So this song that I heard 20 years ago, somehow in some part of me stayed there. So I hope it works on you a little bit too today. It's called Dare You to Move. Welcome to the planet. Welcome to existence. Everyone's here. Everyone's here. Everybody's watching you now. Everybody waits for you now. What happens next? What happens next? I dare you to move. I dare you to move. I dare you to lift yourself up off the floor. I dare you to move. I dare you to move like today never happened. Today never happened before. Welcome to the fallout. Welcome to resistance. The tension is here. The tension is here between who you are and who you could be. Between how it is and how it should be. Dare you to move. I dare you to move. I dare you to lift yourself up off the floor. I dare you to move. I dare you to move. Today never happened like today never happened. Maybe redemption has stories to tell. Maybe forgiveness is right where you fell. Where can you run to escape from yourself? Where you gonna go? Where you gonna go? Salvation is here. I dare you to move. I dare you to move. I dare you to lift yourself up off the floor. Dare you to move. Dare you to move like today never happened. Today never happened. Today never happened. Today never happened before.
Fabulous. Lucy Clabby and Mila Shadle, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now, without further ado, I am very excited to introduce our speaker, our guest speaker and friend, Steve Treu, who is a psychologist, an author, and educator who will speak today on simulation stimulation. Please welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Very good to be here again. Every time I come here, I'm always struck by the synchronicities of things. Patti, you mentioned interpretation and application, and that's like specifically what everything I like to do is all about. A lot of thought, interpretation. If we don't correctly interpret spiritual teachings, we're not going to apply them. But part of what I'm going to talk about is we don't really need to interpret at all as long as we apply. This interprets, this applies. Fair enough? So that's synchronicity. Lucy, every time you sing, I often wonder during the meditation, you mentioned we're all one in consciousness, and I was literally thinking that moment, every time Lucy sings something, it's like, did she plan this ahead of time to back up what I'm going to talk about? Thank you very much. But yeah, the idea that I remember who I am and that there is only love, ultimately the simulation that I'm going to be talking about is showing us exactly that. Everything else is addiction. Love is all there is. And if we don't figure that out, we're addicted to something, okay? And, there's a lot of different varieties of that. But So I'm going to start with something. I work with my lovely wife here, Kristen. Say hi, Kristen. We call our mental health facility that we work at Quantum Revolution Counseling, okay? And the idea is based upon quantum physics that I learned a long time ago, what Einstein himself said he was trying to understand the mind of God. I also wanted to do that, and the more I looked into the physics of things, I started to personally figure out this wonderful creation that we're in is precisely designed to show us who we are and to help us remember. And so I wanted to seek with my wife about how to go about showing people, especially through mental health and addiction, how love is all that matters ultimately, right? And so the physics is there, and there's a whole lot of physics. We could spend hours talking about the simulation and the physics of the simulation today, okay? But here's the most important thing about the science of it. It doesn't matter. Okay? The point of the science is really simple when Jesus himself said, let's be fishers of men. To me, the science is there as bait to help people who don't understand what's really going on, to show them the incredible, again, with the simulation idea and all things related to it. The science just blows people's minds. When I meet people who are otherwise resistant to spirit, and then you show them the nature of the world, they're much more inclined to look at it with an open heart, right? And so it's bait. But some of the stuff I'm going to be talking about, you don't have to know. It's not like Jesus and all the various prophets talked about atomic theory and subatomic particles and stuff like that. It's not important. It doesn't need to be known. Only the heart needs to know. But if you would like to have some backing and some support for the direction we're all headed, or bait for other people, because it is useful to use that way, then some of this quantum stuff matters. It's the application of what we're going to be talking about today that ultimately matters. So we're going to start with a little joke along those lines. There is a team of scientists that are climbing the mountain of truth. They get to the summit and they look over, and what do they see? A team of theologians who had got there 1,000 years earlier. Okay? And so the science is fun, it's interesting, it's also not necessary, okay? Very important. Nevertheless, we're going to dive into science and in various philosophies. So we're going to start with Plato's cave. You know the allegory of Plato's cave? So the basic idea is this. Plato, 2,500 years or so ago, mentioned this concept that there are people that are in a cave, and they're all chained to rocks, and behind them there's a fire and a bunch of objects, and that fire is casting shadow with the objects onto the wall in front of the people that are chained to it. And so that's just the reality. All they know is these shadows that are on the wall in front of them. And that's what they see. That's their whole life. That's all they know. Why would they know anything else if that's all they've ever been shown? But then someone gets loose from the rock, gets the chains off, and he's able to go back and check out, like, wait a minute, what's going on back here? There's fire and objects, and wait, that's not really real up there. And then he leaves the cave, and he goes out and sees this whole new world, and the sun, and all these people, and wow, he tries to go back in and explain that to the people who were chained to the rocks. I'm like, hey, what you're seeing, it's an illusion. Okay? They don't know. That's been their whole experience. Like, oh, come on, it's not an illusion. It's all shadows. Okay? And so the concept being, well, you don't know what it is until you see it directly for yourself. And it's really hard to explain it to other people who haven't freed themselves from the chain. That's the basic idea of the allegory of the cave. Well, fast forward 2,500 years later, we have what's known as simulation theory. It's really today's modern variation on Plato's cave. And it started with a Swedish philosopher by the name of Nick Bostrom, who asked in a 2003 paper, are you living in a computer simulation? And explains our reality is a product of future generations who have mega computers that are running ancestor simulations in which simulated beings are imbued with a sort of artificial consciousness. Okay, and what's all that mean? There's a future where computers, think artificial intelligence, are so good and so precise that they're able to set up a simulation of which we're in it right now, and we're participating in that simulation. And again, it's interesting, science way of thinking about the perception of the world that we're living in. Let me read for you a few specific definitions of what a simulation means. One, an imitation of a situation or a process. Imitation of a situation or process. Think awakening right there, okay? It's a process that we all go through. We're in a simulation. The action of pretending or deception. Well, if it turns out that life is spirit, John 6:63 always comes to mind. Jesus says the flesh counts for nothing. The spirit gives life. If life is spirit, then why are we obsessed with all this flesh stuff? It's a bit of a deception, isn't it? We're supposed to learn how to figure that out. Lastly, the production of a computer model or something especially for the purpose of study. Imagine yourself as you are, an eternal spiritual being who comes into a simulation for the purpose of study. I often call the world like a gymnasium or a playground. We come here to work out our spiritual muscles. Why does anyone go to the gym? To eat donuts? Ideally, you want to go work out, right? That's the idea. So spiritual beings come into this simulation to work out their spiritual muscles. That's what it is. So it's a purpose. It's for a study. And then I love this description of simulation theory. People perceive reality as an actually advanced hyper-realistic computer simulation, possibly overseen by a higher being. Okay. Wow, possibly. Now, what would be required, New York University philosopher David Chalmers describes that the possibility that that higher being, he says, quote, may just be a teenager. Okay? Hacking on a computer and running 5 universes in the background, but it might be someone who is nonetheless omniscient, all-knowing, and all-powerful about our world. Because if a future being who has extreme, omnipotence was able to create such a simulation and we're in it, that being would have understanding on all levels over us. Right? Even if it's just some sort of teenager in the future, okay? It's relative to us. So to understand and to really get into the concept, again, you don't have to go through the science. I'm going to go through a little bit of the science of it. But to understand the concept is backed by some of the smartest minds. There is a gentleman by the name of Leonard Susskind. Anybody ever hear of him? He's famous for a lot of different things. He's a Stanford University professor. But he once beat Stephen Hawking in an argument. Do you know Stephen Hawking? Okay. So they were having an argument that lasted 25 years, a debate about black holes. And Leonard Susskind thought one thing, Stephen Hawking thought another. 25 years later, Stephen Hawking had to pay up because he was wrong and Leonard Susskind was right. Now, what does that tell you about Leonard Susskind? Is he a smart guy? Okay. He beat Stephen Hawking in a debate. And this is what Leonard Susskind said. I'm inclined to think, yes, that the three-dimensional world is kind of an illusion. Again, super smart guy saying that the world we're living in is kind of an illusion. Well, simulations are illusions. We don't realize them, especially if we're in them. When I talk about atomic theory and all of that, let's face it, our bodies are made up of trillions and trillions and trillions of teeny tiny vibrating particles, which are much more like music than anything else. It's why it moves us, okay? Because we're just vibrations of energy. And that's, again, very important to know. When you're meeting someone who knows none of this and you explain to them the nature of reality through atomic theory and all of that, they're like, wow, I didn't really ever think of it like that. And they're a little more open. Well, taking it to the full extent, Susskind and people along those lines, they all saying the same thing. Just go Google it. So many brilliant scientists and philosophers are saying, you know what? We're getting to the point where we have to acknowledge this. I'm confident. In fact, I'll say I know future generations, probably in the next 100 years, will be teaching simulation theory in a philosophical, scientific way in school. They'll have to keep the religion out of it for obvious reasons, right? But, you could still do it with philosophy. So here's where, and by the way, movies like The Matrix, Inception, it could go on and on. So many movies that are playing around with these ideas are quite useful to watch. I actually show them to clients sometimes. Like, here's your homework assignment. Go watch The Matrix. We're going to talk about it next time and why it's similar to the reality that we're in. But I'm going to explain using Kabbalah. If you're familiar with Kabbalah, it's some people call it Jewish mysticism, others say it isn't. I'm fairly confident Jesus was aware of Kabbalistic concepts back when he was studying in his day. And Kabbalah describes our reality so beautifully. And here's where I need my whiteboard. Now, the fact is, I have an addiction to whiteboards. If you've ever seen me talk before, I've done about 4,000 speeches and lectures in my life, groups, and I always have a whiteboard. I don't, but it's like Linus in his little security blanket or whatever. I always have one there. It's not there, but I did bring a pen. So this will work. Now, Albert Einstein said that imagination is more important than knowledge. Now, this is Mr. Knowledge himself saying that imagination is more important. We do not need to understand this stuff. We just have to imagine it and then apply it, okay? So I'm going to explain a concept that Kabbalah describes, basically what the Big Bang is all about, and how I want you to see, you have to use your minds and visualize this, what the simulation actually is. And here's how Kabbalah describes the beginning of our specific universe. It's pretty easy to imagine here. Imagine a whiteboard with nothing on it, okay? All white. And imagine that whiteness is the light. And imagine creator, whatever creator is to you. Imagine the creator. Kabbalah uses creator a lot, so I'll use the word creator. A creator created a creation with one specific intention, to fill us and those creatures with delight, which I think is sort of funny because it's delight. Get it? The light. But delight, the experience that we're able to have is actually delightful. It's like a fairy tale. It won't be delightful if you don't go through some drama. Okay? We have to have the illusion and the deception of death and things like that. We have to believe in the possibility of evil, okay? And that this world is a scary place. Otherwise, it wouldn't be very delightful. Once we figure it out in the end. Rumi, the Muslim poet, says, in the end, you will awaken laughing at your grief. Wow. Don't say that to someone in therapy, right? Oh, just laugh at your grief, okay? But the fact is, again, very spiritually evolved people who get it, and almost all the prophets, one way or another, refer to the world as an illusion. Well, here's how you want to visualize it, or it's at least a very effective way to do it in Kabbalah. Imagine that whiteboard. And then imagine the creator who wants to set up a simulation. Could be a teenager. Relative to us, it's God, okay? And that creator removes some of the light. And here's where I'll just use the black pen. This is what I would draw on the board. Imagine this, okay? And just draw a black circle in the middle, which we'll call the void. So the creator has removed some of the light and created a vacuum, if you will, called the void. This is what happened before the Big Bang. There's a void where there's no light. So imagine the void, and it's the black circle, okay? And then that same creator injected a little light back into that void. Just a little, though. Enough to spark this creation we're in. And so in comes a little light into that void, and so it's dark and light at the same time. Think yin and yang, okay? Think opposites, think duality. So there's light and there's no light. Hey, welcome to our world. And then because that light that got injected back in, by the way, in the beginning, God said, let there be light. Well, here's where it happens. That light is injected back into that void. This simulation has begun, and all of this creation that we know of, it starts happening. And then it becomes a game, a very specific game. That's what simulations are. Think of, what's the guy's name? I wrote it down here. Treu Iwatani. Ever hear of him? He's a god. Treu Iwatani. He's the god of Pac-Man. In the 1980s, he was like 27 or something. You know how rich that guy must be? He created Pac-Man. Yeah, he was 25. So relative to Pac-Man, you all know the video game Pac-Man, right? Relative to Pac-Man, Mr. Iwatani is God, okay? Because Pac-Man has to follow all the rules. Pac-Man is this little creature who's eating cookies and going after cherries and staying away from the ghosts. Think about it. That's like our reality. Consuming cherries and cookies. Stay away from the scary things, you know. The ego, which is the devil. There's no dude with a pitchfork. The ego is our perception of self as physical. And the ego is obsessed with labels, right? Obsessed on both sides of this. You know, which other way, you want to judge someone else because of their labels, or you're over-identifying with your labels, whatever the case may be. The ego is obsessed with that, and it sees the world that way. And the ego has two things that it does. It seeks pleasure, and it avoids pain. That's Pac-Man, okay? Running around in this game, eating the cookies and the cherries, and trying to stay away from the ghosts. So Mr. Iwatani set up the game with very specific rules, and very specific concepts which people get from the beginning. Oh, I get the idea. Try not to die, okay? Gather a lot more cookies, okay? That's the game. It's pretty simple. And Pac-Man must abide by those rules. Welcome to our reality. See, the way Pac-Man works is there's options. Pac-Man starts out in the center of the board. He can go left or right. Or Ms. Pac-Man if you want that. Left or right, whatever. And you, as the controller, of Pac-Man get to decide, start left or right. Mr. Iwatani set it up that you have the choice. You want to go left or you want to go right? Now, the possibility to go left or right exists in that moment before you make the decision, because it's in the code. The guy can go waka, 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 waka. Either way, left or right, based upon what you've decided to do. As the being sitting on the couch from outside the simulation playing the game, Pac-Man, it's there. That's called superposition, loosely, in the way video games work. You're doing superposition all the time. You have options. Superposition in physics is infinite possibilities. Order a pizza. How many different toppings can you get on it? And before you actually say, yeah, I'd like a, I don't know, large pepperoni or green peppers, whatever, that the guy that's getting ready to take your order has multiple possibilities, and you then decide in the moment which way to go. Again, that's known as superposition. The world gives us an infinite array of possibilities time and time again. You either choose love or not love. If I'm driving down the street and there's a bunch of people in front of me, known as traffic, and I start to get frustrated and angry, and next thing you know, I'm waving inappropriate gestures at people, am I choosing love? And doesn't the universe show me in that moment as I'm experiencing it that I'm not being loved? And how do we feel when we're not being loved? I just say it's as simple as this. You put your hand on the hot stove. This is basic science. You put your hand on a hot stove. How do you feel? Burned. And so what do? Pull your hand away. Every time we choose, thanks to the infinite array of options in front of us and all the experiences we're having, known as superposition, every time we choose not love, we get burned. Every time. Every time Pac-Man goes towards that ghost, he gets killed by the ghost, and then he respawns, and he can play the game again. Either that's every day of your life, or even every moment of your life, or it's reincarnation, or anywhere in between. Your choice. You could look at it however you want. I happen to strongly believe, and there's biblical reasons to believe this too, in my opinion, that reincarnation is a thing, because this is way too difficult to do in one lifetime, okay? Way too difficult. So we need many. I believe they say Siddhartha had 24 lifetimes before he became the Buddha, right? And by the way, Buddha means, do you know what the word Buddha means? Awakened. It's sort of like figuring out you're in a simulation. You're like, wait a minute, there's some teenager in the sky somehow controlling all of this, okay? You can figure out you're in a simulation. Now you're awakened, right? Because now you make yourself, as the controller of the avatar, primary over the physical body. If you're playing Pac-Man, you're not Pac-Man, but you're focused on Pac-Man, aren't you? Could you imagine if you're playing Pac-Man, then you forget, and then you go into Pac-Man, and now you're in the simulation. Anybody see the movie Free Guy? It's a great movie. Homework assignment, go watch Free Guy. And it's very similar. Who's the actor? Ryan Reynolds, right? And he starts out, he doesn't realize he's a robot, and he's just robotically doing things, and then he slowly figures out over time. Again, that's awakening. That's the Buddha. Apparently took him 24 shots or thereabouts to figure that out. Well, it doesn't have to be multiple lifetimes. It's each and every day of our lives. Do you choose love or not? And the more you choose love, you get reinforced by that. Neurochemistry comes into play here. The fact is, the science of how the brain works. Every time you choose love, your brain spits out a chemical called endorphins, which is very useful for my work because I work with people who use heroin a lot. Heroin goes into the same receptor that love does. You know why people like heroin and opioids and all those drugs? Because it's fake love. It's actually fake high-level love. And that's the only drug that is, there's a lot of different drugs, okay? The one that's become such a problem, especially with fentanyl, that's like extremely intense love, but it's fake. In the simulation, it's running into the ghost. People like the feeling because they get this automatic feeling of divinity, and it's what it is. Because I ask, and I've worked with thousands, they all say the same thing. Using something like heroin gives you this deep sense of peace, like it's all okay. Well, you can either use a chemical for that, or you can figure it out for yourself. I work with heroin addicts on this all the time. When you practice love, love is an endorphin producer, and when you practice love all the time, your brain will produce endorphins all the time. What happens after a while? You get addicted to that. I remember that I am love. So it's appropriate at this point then to refer to the core values of unity, right? Which, by the way, I just plucked this right off your website. Thank you very much. And so I'm just going to go through them. And notice that here's the simulation. The game that we're in is forcing us. You know, it's Psalm 23. You will lie beside still waters, okay? You're going to be made to lay down in green pastures. I came to understand the green pastures reference as a chakra thing. You know what color chakra the heart is? Green. We are going to lay down in green pastures. That's not a literal verse, you know, okay? Get over here, lay down in the pasture, get by that, you know, that's not how it works. See, the universe is a simulation that forces you to lie down in a green pasture. It's the heart chakra, okay? You're going to do it, okay? You could take 1,000 lifetimes if you want, or right now, the book Course in Miracles calls it the holy instant. We're always this close, right? Right now, right? You got it. Or 15,000 lifetimes later, either way. But Rumi again says, we're separated by God by 7,000 veils of light. If you love in each moment, a veil gets removed. How good are we staying focused on love? We're not so good at it. Put on a Steeler game, I'll lose it fast, okay? So what are these core values? Joy. We look for the good in every situation and live with enthusiasm and zeal. Are we good at that? Is the ego good at that? Look for the good in every situation. I'm a big fan of Romans 8:28. My favorite therapeutic scripture. All things work together for good for those who love God. What does all things mean? I'll let you figure that one out, okay? So the person you want to be elected president doesn't get elected president. Is that good? Okay, you don't get the promotion, okay, or the relationship doesn't work out quite like you want, right? Or the stock market crashes, or you lose your hair too young, you know, whatever. All things work together for good because you have the chance to practice love. You know what hates love? Ultimately, the ego, because it's the thing that resists and it says, nope, don't want that. I need to keep you separate from God because that's the game, that's it. When Jesus says love your enemy, he's ultimately talking about the ego because it's a great teacher. It's inspiring us to growth. It's forcing us to love. And so do we look for the good in every situation and live with enthusiasm and zeal? Not when the ego is in control of our life. And again, the ego is the idea of this self, the separate self. I'm different than you. And then I look at you as labels, and you look at me as labels, and we different races and orientations and religions and politics and sports teams. It's tiring. But if I just look at you as love, namaste. I mean, it's that simple. I don't have to go through politics drives me crazy. I don't know what you think. I'm like, there's so much blah, blah, blah. And really, we're not getting to the core issues. I don't want to diverge too much, but I have to a little. I love when Jesus admonishes Peter before the crucifixion. And Peter says, no, we're not going to let them kill you, Jesus. You're a teacher. You're a master. You need to stay here. And what does Peter say? What does Jesus say to Peter? Get behind me, Satan. You are an offense to me. You are a hindrance to me. You're focused on the affairs of God. You're focused on the affairs of man. I'm focused on the affairs of God. One of the, believe the word is politikos in Greek or something like that, literally means the affairs of man. Okay? Politics is the affairs of man. It's super hard to be spiritual and political at the same time, because to be political is to have some dividing lines, and this is good and this is bad, and you're against me, and what. Pretty much, you're not going to get elected if you don't do that. I love to joke. I love Marianne Williamson, but she's going to have a hard time running for president when right in the middle of Course in Miracles it says this: the secret to salvation is you're doing this to yourself. Okay, good luck running for president on that. Why? Because if you're not choosing love, you experience the pain. If you choose love, you get the divinity. That's the stimulation right there. That's it. Always in play like gravity. We forget that because it's so easy to get distracted. It's always in play. Gratitude. We recognize, appreciate, and give thanks for the fullness of our lives. Well, the ego, at least as I experience it, is always looking for more. I'm not satisfied. Things would be better if. I can hear the voice in my head. You recognize that voice? It's our shared common enemy. I learned personally during COVID. I'm like, wait, the ego is exactly like COVID. It's a virus that infects people, and it kills us too, okay? But nobody gets COVID and claims it for their own. It's my COVID. But we say my ego all the time. No, you're afflicted with the same disease as I am, the ego. It's a disease, okay? It's ignorance. It's the opposite of what you are. And the ego in me says, yeah, you don't have enough. You need more. Okay, that guy's got it better than you. And that takes me out of the moment. So are we practicing gratitude? I often don't. But when I practice gratitude, I'm satisfied with everything just as it is. Must practice this. Integrity. We live our values of honesty, respect, and ethical principles. Well, don't opportunities abound with that? Every time I do my taxes, I have that voice in my head, who's really going to look at this? How do they know how much money you gave? I can hear that all the time. Or checking out at Walmart, Walmart makes hundreds of billions, right? Something like that. But now you can just walk up and scan things, and are they really watching? And so I have more than a few clients who got kicked out of Walmart permanently because, shoplifting is really easy, but Walmart makes more money not paying humans than the money lost by the shoplifting, okay? Nevertheless, it crosses my mind. I'm like, it must be pretty easy to just walk out of here with stuff. Or you choose, like Muhammad says, it's called ihsan in Islam, to live as if God is in the room with you. There's a wonderful scientific or psychological study. They took kids and they had a line and they had a dartboard up on the wall. And then they gave them a dart, which is a little dangerous to give to kids. But they said, if you can hit the bullseye, you get a piece of candy on the table, right? And then they left the room. Half the kids, they just left the room. And the kids, they were videoing the kids. The kids looked around and they walk up, cross the line. They're not allowed to cross the line, but they cross the line and they stick the dart in the bullseye, then they walk back. And when the teacher comes in the room, like, oh, good job, you did it. Here's your candy. Kids feel good about that. But then they told half the kids about the invisible woman sitting in the chair, right? And oh, by the way, there's an invisible woman sitting right there. And then they left. And the kids would go, and those kids didn't cross the line, right? They had this perception, this idea that someone was watching them. Again, in Islam, that's called ihsan. Live as if God is always in the room with you. Well, guess what? God, love, is always in the room with you. We should always live that way. That promotes integrity, doesn't it? Everywhere you go, you don't get away with nothing, okay? There's karma, just takes care of everything. You cannot fool Mother Nature, right? It's always there, always present, all the time. So therefore, just practice integrity. Might as well. You're not, if not, karma will get you. Compassion, we see the divine in everything and act from our hearts with empathy, acceptance, and care. See, love your neighbor as yourself is easy when you actually like your neighbor. The problem is when you don't like your neighbor. I love my neighbors if you're watching. The problem is when we don't like people, okay? We have to love our enemies. How are we going to have compassion only for those we agree with? Doesn't Jesus say that directly too? What good is it if you only love your friends? You're not doing anything. We truly, in order to spread the Spirit, have to love those whom we disagree with. Welcome to politics. I have my clients all the time. Pick the opposing party, watch their news channel, and see if you can keep your blood pressure from going up. Okay? That's good. You can't. Right? Yeah, we all got work to do. Well, I can't do it with football very well. I had to learn how to love Tom Brady. You know how horrible that was? Okay, that's some hell right there. Anyhow, so compassion is for all. It's for all people, and it's for every moment. Okay? Every experience you have. We're very normal. If I'm playing Pac-Man and a ghost shows up, I'm going to get a little nervous, okay? But I have to learn how to get away from that Pac-Man. If an adversity comes our way, we're normal. We're going to have a moment of, I don't like this. I don't want this to happen, especially if a loved one dies. That's like the high end here. But if we don't realize that eternal spirit can't die, physics says that energy can't be created or destroyed. We are energy beings. All we can do is transform. Once we practice that, it just becomes easier. You get really good at it, you don't see death as a thing anymore, at least not like it used to. And Jesus overcame death, didn't he? Now, if he was resurrected and came back 3 days later physically, totally fine. But I know that means spiritually, because we are resurrected when we realize we're in a simulation. You remember once again, you are born again. Oh, that's right, I'm a divine spiritual being. God created a void, shoved the energy into it, and I just figured that out again. And once you do that, you channel the very spirit that he's offering to us, right? And now we are living as if we are love, because that's all we are. But now we're living it in our avatar. And all of us, namaste, all of us have that same opportunity. What would it be like if we all did that? Diversity would be so fun instead of something to argue about. Wouldn't it be boring if every restaurant served just mac and cheese? Unless you really like mac and cheese. Aiden would love it, right? But I'm glad we're different. That's fascinating. But we're the same because we all channel love. That's it. And so it's our job in the simulation to do this. That's inner wisdom. More and more we turn to spirit and trust our divine knowing while we acknowledge the same in others. Now, I don't know if I did this here before, but the way to handle this is to realize oak trees start out as acorns, little teeny tiny seeds, but they grow into giant oak trees. Imagine trying to explain to an acorn, one day you're going to be about 100 feet tall. You'll produce acorns yourself, and you're going to serve so many roles for people. Acorn doesn't believe that. You tell most people what Jesus said, you are the light. And Jesus said, greater works than these you can do. Right? Because Jesus knew he was Christ consciousness capable. He spent his whole life working towards that. That's why he was sinless. Sin just means not realizing this one concept, your divinity. And anything off that would be sinning. Remember, everything's addiction, okay? Except for that one concept. So Jesus was born sinless because he knew his whole life he had to establish the Christ within. That's what he was doing. He had clarity on that point. And we know, even up to the end, on the cross, he said, why have you forsaken me? So even he glitched, okay? It's difficult. It's a tough life. Take this cup from me. He didn't want to go through it, okay? Makes him normal. We can relate. But the fact is, he was sinless because he knew his objective. That's us. That's the simulation. We're in a game, and Christ consciousness is the answer. It couldn't be anything else. In Buddhism, it's called Dzogchen, the great perfection. And they say, you don't get out of this game, if you will, until you realize your divinity. You go round and round again, which is totally fine. Last, personal and spiritual growth. We expand our consciousness connection with spirit by intentionally and actively expressing our awakening. This reminds me, the straight up second step of Buddha's Eightfold Path, which is called right intention. Do you carry around the energy of spirit with the goal of hoping to inspire self and others at all times with the ability to wake up to the true nature of the divine self? If in each and everything that's your intention, then you got it. That's going to define how you handle yourself in traffic, for sure. It also defines how you handle election season. God bless America in this next year, okay? But how do we handle adversities, disease diagnoses, job loss, stuff like that? Well, we freak out for a minute. But if we let the Spirit flow through us, then it will guide us. It'll be our guide. And that right there is how Jesus is the Savior. He brings us and he shows us how to be Christ conscious. And so, wrapping it up, it is Jesus in Luke 17:21 who says the kingdom of heaven is inside you, okay? I often ask, if you ask children or most people, point to heaven, please. Where does everyone point? Okay? Now, the truth is, it would be this, okay? But most people, when they don't think about it, think it's up. As if you got into a spaceship and went up, you'd hit the bottom of heaven, okay? It's not in this dimension, okay? And like I said with Kabbalah, that's because this dimension, the one that we're in, three-dimensional, is carved out of a larger dimension. We're in a subset, if you will. That's the simulation. And we're in this dimension, and we have one objective, to realize the kingdom of heaven is inside of you, is inside of us. And very precisely, as it says in the Torah, and as Jesus referenced with the teachers of his day, know ye not ye are gods? See, that's a good question to ask yourself all the time, okay? Wherever you're at, whether it's in traffic, during an election, watching a Steeler game, whatever, know ye not ye are gods? See, every time we forget that, we lose the simulation. We get our hands burned. We feel it as pain. And then what do? Blame the external. But every time we remember we are indeed gods, then we have an objective in mind and we know how to try to win the game, okay? So enjoy your simulation and always remember this, ye are gods. I'll take up too much time. I'm sorry. It's like 2 p.m. now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But you know what? It was well worth it because, it's good to hear from another God. And, I really like the Pac-Man analogy. And I'm still calling it an analogy. I guess I haven't totally swallowed on that. But and the interesting thing is, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be speaking on the natural laws of the universe, which could be the code, if you will, behind Pac-Man. So that kind of came together very nicely for me. Thanks for the setup. I'll probably reference one or two things. Yeah, that's true. Okay, all right, so now it is time for our prosperity practice. First of all, I know we have a new person today, not new to me, but my dear friend Sue is here, and greetings to Sue. And if anyone else is new, we do have a gift for you. We're glad you're here, and Cheryl, one of our staff members, will be down later, and she would love to meet you and give you a gift. In the meantime, we recognize prosperity is continuing to unfold for each and every one of us, and unity. So on that note and that awareness, let us, I'll have to get my purse. Let us get our donations together and maybe have a little music, and we'll connect your donation. But before we do that, let us pray the prosperity prayer together as you hold your donations in your hand, or get ready to press that button online that says donate. Let's pray. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, and I am grateful. And if we can have a song while the ushers collect your donations, thank you so much.
I am made of the light that hung the stars in the night. A perfect thought since time began. I am one with the love that's holding all of us. It's power in my hands. I am called by the voice that speaks of truth and joy. Forever blessed where I stand. I
Much. By way of announcements, a week from this Wednesday, Unity World Day of Prayer, and we will have a celebration of that here a week from Wednesday, the 13th, and also on Tuesday, the 12th, or a week from this coming Tuesday, a cacao ceremony. And what I would encourage you to do is go to unityofpittsburgh.org and read all about it. And let's now... Well, let me thank you all for being here and creating this fabulous service with this amazing message. And as we bring forth that light and continue to see ourselves as God, as that creator, let us stand up and sing, Now There's Peace on Earth. If you could lead us, I'd appreciate it.
Now there is peace on earth, and it has begun with me. Now there is peace on earth, a peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, family all are we. Now we walk with each other in perfect harmony. Peace has begun with me, and this is the moment now. With every breath I take, let this be my joyous vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternal.
And now together, the closing prayer. The light of God surrounds me. I am light. The love of God enfolds me. I am love. The power of God protects me. I am power. The presence of God watches over me. I am presence. Wherever I am, God is, because I am God, and all is well. Thank you all. Thank you, Steve. See you next week, everybody.